Well, one thing we know is they're never going to give this up. I mean, it's pretty clear. These recent reports that have been issued by Arrow and now the repeated media statements by the former Arrow staffers, there's nothing to it. There's no information. There's no proof. It's stuff that we made up. It's disinformation that we spread out there. We created the story about Area 51. We created the story about nukes being disabled. That's all us. All the technology that people have been seeing in the skies around the world on every culture, every continent throughout human history, that's us. It's preposterous. It's ridiculous. There's no way we could ever accept it. But Arrow has made it clear they're not going to give this up. They're not even giving it up to Congress. I admire the people who've been pushing the ball down the field in Congress, but they've been manipulated on this topic as well. There's always something more pressing for members of Congress, for the public, you know, a job, your mortgage payment, your family, bills for Congress. There's Ukraine, there's Gaza, there's the stuff in LA that's unfolding right now. Always something more pressing than UFOs. So the people who tell these lies get away with it.
I have the same question for both of you. And by the way, you know, everybody in common parlance now uses Area 51. That was George Knapp that brought that into the recognition of the rest of us. George, if you were to meet the man, okay, in quotes, and the person who knows, what would be the three things that you would want answers to?
I'd like to know ultimately where they're from and what their intentions are regarding us. Are they interested in us? Are they where they're from? Are they interested in us or the planet more than us? Number two is, why the secrecy? I mean, I could see it in 1947. We just come out of World War II. The world's a mess. Do you need to share that with the public and tell them there's another intelligence more advanced than us? Well, why the secrecy now, though? You know, number three, if the technology is being tested in secret in some hangar somewhere, what do we need to get it done? Can we ever master it? And are the national security implications legit? Because there is a race for this technology. Us, the Russians, the Chinese, maybe the Israelis. How do we ever separate the UFO technology from national security concerns that would allow some president to step up to a microphone and say, we've been lying to you, here's the truth?
What can you add to that, Jay?
I just would have one question. You know, what made you look beyond your orders and not follow your oath? Like, what made you do this? Keep this from the American public. What is so scary to you that you are holding this back from the American public and hurting people's lives? That's what I really want to know. It's more of a human question about the secrecy of UFOs. I'm done with it. The American public's done with it. And I hope we crack this egg as soon as possible.
What do you think the watershed moment will be, George? What do you think has to happen that hasn't yet?
It's got to be a whistleblower who comes forward with a piece of something or some video evidence, something irrefutable. Or it has to be them, whoever they are, wherever they're from. I mean, they're the real architects of the secrecy. Wherever they're from, they've been here a long time. They could make themselves known in some irrefutable kind of a demonstration. They haven't done it. We get little glimpses, little bits and pieces, a look here, a look there, but they started the secrecy, and our government is happy to exploit it.
For me, Jay, you know what I think it's going to be? Advantage. One of these two poison parties is going to realize there's something in this issue for them versus the other one, and they'll go all in down that road. That is my suspicion of why it didn't change from Biden to Trump. It didn't kill the Democrats for Trump to come out with whatever that they were going to come out with. The same way that it wouldn't have killed Trump for Biden to expose whatever it is. And these cats are all about advantage, never about advancement of anything but their own aims.
Hope you're right.
Look, if we still have freedom of journalism, then we're going to push as hard as we can to reveal to people the best evidence that we have. That's our mission. That's what we're going to do. We're going to practice journalism.
Jeremy, I love you. Thank you for being here. You're always welcome. I appreciate the work that you're doing. George Knapp, I got to tell you, I'm so happy that I finally got a chance to speak to you, and I respect that you do the hardest part of the job that I love so well, which is you find a way to tell what people don't want told. And thank you for that. Thank you for your example, and thank you for your continued efforts. If I can help you guys in any way, at any time, I'm a call away.
Is the government finally coming clean about what it knows about UFOs? There's a new report by the Federal Aviation Administration that admits in 2023 an orange and white UFO crashed into an Air Force fighter jet during a routine training mission. And the UFO caused so much damage to the $60 million jet that it was forced to land. And that is not the only new evidence that they released. Trump's top science advisors recently admitted that the government may have anti-gravity technology. Look at this.
Our passenger planes are slower than they used to be. Our trains crawl compared to those in other parts of the world. Our cars do not fly. We are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space.
Manipulate time and space. Oh my gosh, I'm surprised that hasn't been a bigger story. So why has the Trump administration decided to disclose all of this now? I want to ask former Pentagon UFO whistleblower and investigator Lou Elizondo. Lou, it's nice to have you with us. First of all, the UFO that crashed into the fighter plane, what do we know about that?
Well, the problem is that we really don't know much, and therein lies the challenge, right? When you have an incident involving a $40 million combat aircraft, and only the details now are starting to be released through Freedom of Information Act and FAA, there's a problem. Now, we've been saying for the last 8 years since I've been out that there have been dozens upon dozens of these near-air collisions that have occurred with military and civilian and commercial pilots. This is not just happening with military aircraft. Now, this is the first time we heard of an actual mid-air collision, but some of these objects are coming so close to combat aircraft that they are literally splitting that combat formation right down the middle. So you can imagine how close combat aircraft fly when they're flying in formation. Now imagine a UAP coming in right between them. So this is nothing new. And I think, you mentioned earlier, why is the administration having the conversation now? And I think it's because this has really become the worst kept secret in American history. It's been 80 years of suppression and misinformation, and we're at the point now where I think the administration realizes that America can handle the truth.
Yeah, it does feel like more has been trickling out over the last few years. You've been working with the FBI on their investigations, their FBI investigations. What can you tell us about what they're finding? Is there anything new there?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. First of all, America is getting a heck of their money spent very well with the FBI. I'm absolutely amazed how well they're doing. In fact, they're running laps around the Department of Defense's Arrow program that was established specifically to look at UAP. And the FBI team, it's a small but scrappy team of folks, are really doing one heck of a job. And I think if you look at Luna's recent statement that she said when she was asked about the FBI meeting that we helped organize in the SCIF, she said it was a 10 out of 10. And that I guess Arrow now has some explaining to do. So the FBI is doing fantastic, but also we can't forget about Tulsi Gabbard and the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, and the entire intelligence community. There are pockets of excellence that are working very, very hard behind the scenes also to try to help boost the FBI's efforts. And I think we're finally getting a congealing, if you will, of the right people, the right resources, the right authorities to finally shed some light on this incredible mystery and give the information not only to Congress, but the American people.
We only have about a minute left, but the clip that we played in the intro, I just kind of find to be fascinating. The top White House science advisor saying that the U.S. has anti-gravity and something about time technology, almost like it almost just kind of slipped out. What are we to make of that?
Well, you're talking about the engineering of the space-time metric. And that is something that we looked at in ATIP, and before that, the programs before mine, and certainly afterwards. This is nothing new. What is new is that the government is starting to become increasingly more transparent on what it knows about these incredible enigmas that we call UAP.
Well, Lou Elizondo, we appreciate you coming on tonight. We appreciate you always fighting to find the truth and bring it to us. And I hope you have a nice weekend.
My sincere honor and privilege. Thank you so much.
Eric Burleson earlier this afternoon. Look who we have now. Ross Coulthart, NewsNation special correspondent, host of Reality Check. Ross, as you know, was the one who blew this wide open with David Grush a couple of years ago. Good on you, sir, to be here with us tonight. So you were just watching all that with me. I spoke to Burleson, Congressman, a few hours ago. What'd you make of what you just heard there, Ross? And do you think it was a smart move for the congressman to do this?
Firstly, good evening, Blake. I think it's a great move, and I really commend the congressman for bringing David on board. I know David's excited to get his teeth into the issue, and there's nothing quite like being in the Congress to be able to get in the ear of different Congress people and indeed senators to try and word them up to know what to ask for. One of the complications with this whole UAP issue is that we're up against a very determined disinformation campaign where, frankly, some people in the Pentagon and the intelligence community, not all, by the way, some people are very open, some people don't want this story told. And David's there to tell this story because, frankly, he's a patriot. As Representative Burleson there explained, David loves his country. And I notice Representative Burleson serves, as well as the Oversight Committee, he also serves on the DOG Committee. You know, he's very much in favour of trimming government budgets. If it's true that there is this unaccountable multi-billion-dollar legacy program that's retrieving craft and spending billions of dollars of your taxpayer money on it, I would have thought DOG would want to have a look at it too, and I'm sure David Grush will be helping him.
Yeah, that's why I asked him about the current administration, right? Because when all this started, it was a different administration. So I hear you and your view of, you know, maybe there's some folks inside the Pentagon who don't want information getting out there. Well, now there's a new Secretary of Defense and a new Commander-in-Chief, right? So that's why I was getting to him. Does any of this change now that Pete Hegseth is running the show there? And I wonder if there is going to be an aha moment, Ross, in your view, now that Grush is on board.
We certainly hope so. I can tell you, Donald Trump has said things in the past that indicate he's open to declassifying UAP files. But one thing he has not done, he has signed executive orders for Epstein, JFK, MLK, RFK, and he's ordered those files to be progressively declassified. He hasn't done that yet with the UAP files. And that's a huge question mark. Why has the president not followed up with his promise to be more open with disclosure on UAPs? Have the intelligence community got the president around their little finger? That's the issue.
So that's the White House up on Congress. There's going to be more hearings here. And the sense that I get, Ross, in talking to lawmakers is they think that Grush can help them ask the right questions because at the end of the day, they come from a different background and not this stuff. So when there are more hearings, do we learn more?
Well, I'm a little bit skeptical, Blake, because frankly, David Grush has already given the Senate Intelligence Committee, the Senate Armed Services Committee, and the House committees all of the evidence that he has. He's told them where to look, where to go. Okay. At the moment, certainly under the Biden administration, there wasn't a great deal of momentum. The ball is now in President Trump's court. He has to follow up with his promises.
We are going live now to Sydney, Australia with NewsNation special correspondent Ross Coulthart. Ross, it's always so good to see you. Thanks for making the time.
It's a real pleasure, Natasha. Nice to see you and your guests.
Thank you. And I know that you've covered other accounts of UFOs moving hundreds of miles an hour underwater, joining with Congressman Burchett's claims. What do you make of underwater UFOs?
I've had the privilege of speaking directly with submariners, particularly, who have been witness to measurements of objects underwater using the sophisticated tracking technology that both the US Navy and my Navy in Australia use. And there are objects that have been recorded unbelievably moving close to the speed of sound in air underwater. So we're talking there about hundreds of kilometres an hour, hundreds of miles an hour. And there's no explanation for it. What we do know is that it is now officially admitted that the mystery of these objects is real. The United States has come a long way in the last 5 to 7 years. It now admits officially through the Director of National Intelligence that, in fact, there is a mystery, a genuine mystery there that requires investigation. And so now under the new administration, under President Trump, there's a big push on privately behind the scenes to get the claims of people like Jake Barber, the guy that I interviewed on NewsNation a few weeks ago, who exclusively revealed his knowledge, direct first-hand knowledge of the existence of a retrieval program, an underground retrieval program involving alleged alien technology. Incredible allegations, I know. But what's interesting is there is no engagement at the top levels of the Trump administration and also in the Congress. People want to hear more, and they're asking questions.
And let me ask you about that, because I know Jake Barber revealed that he has met with then Senator Marco Rubio's staff about the UFO retrieval program he says he was a part of. And of course, Rubio is now Secretary of State. What does this mean for the future of UFO information? Do you know anything about this?
Oh, no, that's what we're all hoping to find out. In fact, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna has flagged that this week she's got a big announcement coming that she says is bigger than UAPs, which we're all waiting breathlessly to hear. And the speculation is that it might involve some decision about declassification of some of the more intransigent government secrets, particularly UAPs. We just don't know. I think one of the issues for incoming administrations, is they're often not told until they get into office what the secrets really are. And the president has been quite upfront about his determination to reveal what can be revealed about UAPs. As you know, I did an interview with Don Trump Jr. a few weeks ago, and he's obviously very engaged with the subject. I've had more conversations with people in the Trump administration since, and I've had reach outs from people in defense and the intelligence community who frankly tell me that they think it's time the American public, and indeed the world, was told what the US really does know about UAPs. They don't think there's any good reason to keep on hiding what they tell me is the case, which is that humanity has long been engaging with an advanced non-human intelligence, and we have been recovering their technology. But I think that's a big call to say that the government's going to make the decision to release that information, because there are genuinely national security imperatives. I can understand why the Defense Department might want to protect weapons technology or propulsion systems or energy systems. But I think at the very least, President Trump could come out and he could say, yes, we are aware of a non-human intelligence and advanced technology, but we're not going to reveal those secrets to the Russians or the Chinese, potential adversaries. But we do think you, the public, should know that we are on top of this. We're restoring it to congressional oversight because it's been hidden improperly from the Congress and indeed from previous presidents. And so it would be a really big move, I think, by the current president to make that decision and be more open and honest with the American public.
Yeah, I know so many are hoping for more transparency in the next 4 years. Ross, in just about 20 seconds, who do you believe would be trying to cover this up and why?
I think more often than not, Natasha, it's coming from private industry. There are a group of aerospace companies who've got the control of this technology, and by golly, they're not letting go in a hurry.
Ross Coulthard, it is always so good to see you, and it always sparks so many questions. Thank you so much. For years, government officials have expressed their curiosity with UAPs or UFOs, some even calling it a government cover-up. Few, though, claim to have seen one themselves. But in 1973, President Jimmy Carter, then governor of Georgia, in an official filing reported he'd seen a very peculiar-looking light in the sky in Leary, Georgia. And he described that light changing from blue to red to white without any solid substance. Well, just this week, a previously off-the-record conversation with the late president is now coming to light, giving a glimpse into Carter's thoughts about UFOs. The man on the other side of that conversation, senior NPR host Scott Simon, joining us live now for more. Scott, such a pleasure to have you on NewsNation Prime. Thanks for coming on.
Nice to be with you, Natasha. Thank you.
Take us back here. What did you ask President Carter about UFOs, and what did he say?
Well, I put in a call to speak with him off the record because we were doing a story on a support group at a New York hospital for people who believed that they had seen UFOs. And the hospital didn't necessarily think they'd seen a UFO, but they had discovered that they didn't make any progress in treating some of the symptoms of trauma and distress unless they put them together with a group of people that had a similar experience. I put a call in, eventually was rewarded with a call from former President Carter. I said, look, you had access to national security information when you were in the White House. Could these people be right? And he chuckled in a very genial way, and he said, "No, but remember, a UFO is just something we haven't identified." And he said there are dozens of unexplained incursions over airspace every year. They're usually some kind of an experiment. I will add, this is before drones were so ubiquitous. And I remember he said you'd actually be surprised how many times the Air Force doesn't know what the Navy's up to and so forth. And then, since we were talking, I said, I think there's life out there. And he said, I don't want to go that far, but if there is, it's got nothing to do with UFOs. And then he said, if there's some other civilization out there, I doubt they'd send these big, bulky airships. They'd probably just keep watch on us and leave us alone. And I wind up telling what I thought was a very warm story about Jimmy Carter. I said, look, if there were other civilizations out there, would the government have to keep it a secret so there wouldn't be a public panic? And Jimmy Carter, if I may say, God bless him and God rest his soul, said, the way I see it, there is nothing to fear. If there is life out there, we are all part of the same master plan, and God's hands are big enough to hold us both. And I found myself just deeply moved by it, recognizing both the candor he had to report seeing a UFO in 1973 without fear of being ridiculed, and the thought that he'd given it.
Yeah, and you kept that journalistic integrity and that promise off the record for all these decades, and you're sharing it with us now. What about it all these years later still resonates so deeply with you?
His decency, his openness. And his openness not only in talking about a subject I think a lot of politicians would understandably avoid, but his openness as a human being to thinking that maybe there is life in another dimension or other planets. Not that he thought, as he said, that UFOs had anything to do with it, but also his feeling that we were all in the hands of the same God, and therefore we were all part of the same world, and we were all part of, in a sense, sharing our lives together at the same time. I was just struck by his expansiveness of spirit, and I don't mind telling you, I was deeply moved. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can tell, and I appreciate you sharing that with us tonight. Do you think this expansiveness was also informed by his own potential sighting, by what he, felt the need to report? I saw something in the sky. There was no substance.
Because I think it was important to him that, for example, the people with whom we'd been speaking, who believed that they had seen UFOs and, in fact, had been aboard UFOs, that I not dismiss them as cranks or idiots or people who were simply damaged, but people who they were convinced seen something, had been shaken up by something, and were good enough to have, I think we can refer to as the courage to share it.
Here on the Hill, sir. Sunshine, it is all the new rage here in Washington. What about the decision from the president, and what do you think we'll learn, if anything, from these files?
Isn't it a refreshing moment when an elected official actually does what they campaigned on? This is beautiful. This is underscoring the fact that Donald Trump is the man of the people. He's the people's president, and the people wanted to know what's going on with the JFK files. The people want answers, and the people are sick and tired of having a federal government think that it's the one that's in possession of this. At the end of the day, the government belongs to the people, and the people have a right to know about something so important as what happened to JFK, Martin Luther King Jr., Robert Kennedy.
What about what your colleague?
It's just refreshing.
What about what your colleague, Congresswoman Kamek, said? What about the Epstein files? Release that?
Absolutely. And as you know, I've been on the Oversight Committee and the UAP task force to try to identify and disclose. In fact, I don't mind saying I've been reaching out to Trump's campaign and to his policy team, trying to get them to consider UFO disclosure.
What have they told you?
Do an executive order on that. And I think that Chuck Schumer, so one thing I think Chuck Schumer and I can find an agreement on is that the American people, really the world, deserves to know this.
Let me drill down on that. You say you've reached out to the White House about it. What have they told you?
So right now I'm chasing down the proper person, but I've been reaching out to people that are in Trump camp that I know.
So what's your sense? What's your feeling? What happens here with disclosures, transparency, maybe declassification of any kind?
I think Trump he sees himself as the people's president, and I think that if the American people, and there's an outcry for people that want the information, I think that Trump will deliver because he sees his role as working for the American people and not the other way around.
If that is put forward, declassified, a report, whatever, what do you think we would see on that front?
Look, I hope we get some answers one way or the other, but whether we go back to what really happened at Roswell, what if there was any attempts to cover that up. Every event that we've been investigating, that the UFO community has been investigating, I would like to get answers to those events.
I got to leave it there. Congressman Eric Burleson on the House Oversight Committee, Republican from Missouri. Again, thank you for the time, sir. Good luck this weekend.
Anytime.